Good evening and welcome to a new episode of our program, The Daily Debates, Wednesday evening. I'm Yasmin Bakir. Tonight we're going to be shedding light on the mega projects in the construction sector here in Egypt. And we're talking about a lot of developments that have been happening in Egypt during the past 6 years. And we're talking about an expansion into new cities. So much has been, work has been put by not just the leadership and the government, but a proper administration that had managed to further expand the development here in Egypt. We're talking about a new administrative capital that is smart to attract foreign investment. We're talking about new areas that are popular now, such as the new Alamein in the north coast. We're talking about an expanded and a further renovated metro line to connect different destinations all the way from north to south and east to west of the country. And not just that, but also the efforts that have been exerted by the government to change the slum areas into a more decent and more modernized and civilized living conditions for these people. And the latest, of course, the villagers, and to also renovate and develop the villages. So there's been a lot going on here in Egypt on parallel lines, all pouring into lifting up Egypt to a different level and prioritizing these projects according to many criteria and several lists. So we're going to be talking about that with our guests, who are all going to be joining us, of course, over the phone today due to the bad weather conditions. But before we kick off with our first phone call and to discuss further and analyze about the timing and the prioritization of Egypt leadership in terms of the projects that have been ongoing and those that have been already inaugurated and those that are expected to open, of course, later on this year. Let's take a first look at this report, the new Egyptian state image. It's very important because that changed and shifts the image of Egypt in the eyes of the entire world. And we'll be right back.
According to a statement by the presidency, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi discussed with several officials, including his aide for urban planning and the head of the Armed Forces Engineering Authority, progress in work at the new administrative capital and several projects implemented by the Armed Forces Engineering Authority nationwide. President el-Sisi was briefed on the construction of the new capital's diplomatic district, which will be home to foreign embassies and consulates, as well as regional and international organizations. The president stated that the country's new administrative capital should reflect the new Egyptian state's image. In this regard, he called for construction of the capital to continue within the set time. The meeting also saw discussions on the first phase of developing 1,500 villages nationwide under a national project to develop Egypt's rural villages. On another level, the officials briefed the head of state on updates to the Ahl Misr walkway across the Nile and Greater Cairo's road networks, which aim to facilitate traffic and reduce pollution. He was also presented with a plan to develop the Hizbet el-Haggana slum area, which is located on the Suez Road at the 4.5-kilometer mark. Worth mentioning that along with the construction of new urban communities, the government is working to develop existing residences in areas that have been classified as severely hazardous and not suitable for housing. In the beginning of the month, President el-Sisi inspected ongoing development work at the shanty area of Hizbet el-Haggana and its surroundings, accompanied by a number of ministers and officials, where he was briefed on the plan as well as the efforts exerted to upgrade and develop the area. He instructed that this area should be changed in a way that improves the daily living conditions of citizens to provide a decent life for the families residing in it, stressing on connecting it to the new road network in the surrounding areas, along with providing them with various basic services.
Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on the Daily Debate. And of course, the IMF has praised during several occasions, and even if we want to reflect back on the world reports, specifically from the financial and economists around the world, we always find that they are praising Egyptian economic performance during the past period, specifically during the pandemic of COVID-19, unlike where the entire world went to a total shutdown or lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic. The economy in Egypt still remained ongoing. Construction was still taking place, and nothing really went on hold despite the pandemic, but with, of course, taking into consideration the precautionary measures for the individual and the safety of the citizens. Now, to take more look at the IMF and what they have to say about the Egyptian economy, how they view the performance of the Egyptian economy, which is very different when it's reflected outside than on the inside level. There's always different criteria and different regulations and sets that would be able to determine how well a certain economy of a country is performing or how bad it's performing according to their standards. Let's take a look at this report and we'll be back right after this.
Kristalina Georgieva, Director General of the International Monetary Fund, known as the IMF, said that Egypt has taken good steps in its economic reform program, including provisions for social support by providing credit to companies and protecting them from bankruptcy and job loss. Georgieva added that the fund's recommendations to the Egyptian government is to maintain this support, while setting priorities and economic reforms that will make Egypt stronger in the face of the coronavirus. The IMF chief pointed out that the fund will continue with the Egyptian government to endure crisis in the future. She highlighted the fact that the fund started consultations with the World Bank to persuade the G20 to adopt an initiative to freeze debt on the most vulnerable countries until they see economic recovery. Georgieva noted that each country suffers from the pandemic differently, and most of the countries that depend on tourism are the ones that have been affected the most, adding that the global economy will depend on the effectiveness of vaccines during the coming period. She stressed the need to start mass vaccination for all countries, adding that the world would save $9 trillion if vaccination starts from now until 2025. Kristalina Georgieva, the Director General of the International Monetary Fund, indicated that the IMF recommends examining tax policies, empowering youth and women, confirming that countries with good education and good health levels will be able to return to growth levels quickly.